Challah, Perek Daled, Mishnah Chet. 8th Mishnah in the 4th chapter of Masechet Challah. Okay, so we're not going to talk about taking off Trumot and Masot in Eretz Yisrael. So we'll start with the Rambam. There's a lot to see here, so I want to start with the Rambam. The Rambam says, that didn't help. Let's make this a little bit smaller. Okay. Says the Rambam, Ein chayavin challah min haTorah ela be'eretz bilbad. The only chiyuv deoraita of challah is in Eretz Yisrael. Shnei Amar, as it says, be'achlechem milechem haaretz. When you eat the lechem, the bread of Eretz Yisrael, of the land. Let's go back to the pasuk we started with. Okay, okay. When you come to the land that I will bring you, we've dissected this pasuk from left to right, up and down. When you eat lechem haaretz, so therefore says the Rambam specifically. Okay, then we learned, but he says the quantify, and this Chazal learned out. When all of Arab Bnei Israel are there. So normally we interpret that to mean when there's a chiyuv of Shemitah and Yovel. When there's Shemitah and Yovel, and that's also connected to whether Shemitah is there, etc. So we're not knowing Yovel today. Biat kulchem, v'lo biat miktzatchem. When Bnei Israel return to their nachla. Lefikach says the Rambam, Challah bizman hazeh. Challah today, afilu b'mei Ezra, even in Ezra's time, be'eretz Yisrael, even in Israel, eina ela midirayhem. It's only midirabana. Okay? So therefore, there's challah in. The challah of today is only midirabbanan, and the Rambam specifically says, mafrishin challah b'chutz haaretz mipnei divrei sofrim. There's also a din of taking off challah, as anybody knows, even in chutz haaretz mipnei divrei sofrim, according to from the Rabbanan, kedei shelo tishtakach tarat challah miYisrael. So you don't forget to take off challah in Eretz Yisrael. Okay, and this challah is a dirabbanan, and as we know, I don't know if we know, we should know, that challah in Eretz Yisrael, that challah in Chutz Haaretz is considered tameh, midrabanan. So that challah, any challah you take off, dirabanan, that's real challah, it has to be saruf, it has to be burned. So that's what we know that there's a different din for in the time of the Mishnah, not in the times of Ezra, but in the ideal, in the time of Bnei Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael, there's challah deoraita that we would take off in Yad Binyamin, b'tahara. When there's a Beit Hamikdash, give it to the Kohen. But someone living in Chutz Haaretz would have to take it off bitum'ah and deal with it in that way. And we're going to see that there's that giving challah in Eretz Yisrael is not in Chutz Haaretz. A more introduction. There's not one challah, but there's two chalot. You have to take off one you give to the kohen, and one you give to. And we're going to see one you have to burn. Okay. I know it's a little bit confusing. I made you a chart. So now we talk about what is considered Chutz Haaretz and what is not. Okay, so we have learned in previous Mishnayot that there were different statuses of Chutz La'aretz, or of Eretz Yisrael. There's Eretz Yisrael. God gave the Bnei Yisrael, the land of Israel, and there's very large borders. We never really, if you look it up in Bamidbar, we never really conquered all those borders. First, there's the area that was Hechziku Olei Mitzrayim. The area that was Hechziku Olei Mitzrayim is basically most of Israel today, not including the Negev, and also the east bank of the Jordan River. But then there's areas that were Hichziku Olei Bavel. Okay, that the Olei Bavel conquered. So when the people came back to Mitzrayim, we paskin, that was called Kichalet Sha'ata. It was sanctified at its time, but because it was never conquered, it was conquered, but it was never settled. And as we all know, settlement, when people live there, that makes it real. Okay, so therefore it was Kichalet Sha'ata, it was conquered, but below Kichalet Atid Lavo. It was not conquered permanently, the area of Huchzuku Eretz Mitzrayim. On the other hand, the area that was when the people came back from Bavel, right, they settled that land. It was a much smaller land. That was called Kichalet Sha'ata. V'Kichalet Atid Lavo. It had Kedushat Eretz Yisrael all the time. Okay, so we have three areas. We have Olei Bavel, that was totally settled, that's considered Eretz Yisrael Deoraita. We have Chziku Olei Mitzrayim, that was Kichalet Sha'ata, and has the din of Eretz Yisrael Dirabanan. And then we have Chutz La'aretz. So our Mishnah is going to talk about those three areas of Eretz Yisrael. Says the Mishnah, Ram Gamliel Omer Shalosh Aretzot L'Challah. Three areas of Challah. Mi Eretz Yisrael Ad Kaziv, Challah Achat. You bring one Challah. As we said before, just to remind you, in Eretz Yisrael you only bring one Challah, the Challah D'Oraita, the main din of Halchot Challah. You have to bring it, you give it to the Kohen in Tahara. That's fine, Challah Achat, you give one Challah. Where is Eretz Yisrael Til Kaziv? So I found, let me find it, here we are. I can't fit the whole thing on one page. I'll just make it smaller so you can see. This is from Rav Felix's book on Shvi'it. This picture. He tells you, now if you look back, when I taught this the last time in Perek Shvi'it, Shvi'it, Perek Vav, Mishnah Aleph, I actually looked back. I taught it according to a different shita of what these lands were, but I'm going to go with Rav Felix this time. Okay, Kaziv, this is Eretz Yisrael. They never inhabited below here. The Jewish people, they really never inhabited. It was negative. It was uninhabitable. Okay, so it was not considered normal. So Eretz Yisrael starts here, Yehuda, right? Yerushalayim, Yehuda, whatever it was, down here, up to Kaziv. Kaziv is north of Akko. Okay, so from Eretz Yisrael to Kaziv, basically, you can see he's pointing out this place. Remember, we said Aram Narayim. This was Olei Mitzrayim. So Eretz Yisrael until Kaziv was Ha'eretz Shehuchzuku Olei Bavel, from Eretz Yisrael to Kaziv. And we said Huchzuku Olei Bavel. Oh, let me go back to my chart. That was, the chart is down, sorry. Eretz Yisrael to Kaziv was Kitcha L'Shata v'Kitcha L'Atid Lavo. So here, this area from Eretz Yisrael to Kaziv to right up to Akko, that, the Mishnah says, let's go back to our Mishnah, that's Challah Achat, that's the Oraita. Mikaziv v'ad Nahar v'ad Amana, from Kaziv until the river Amana, till the Amana River, that's, okay, Kaziv, area 2, Kaziv until the Nahar, until Amanam, he says, that's Eretz Hashniya, that's Eretz Kovshei Mitzrayim. There's some river, I don't know exactly what it is, etc., etc. You'll have to take my word for it. You look it up. You could do research on the internet. That, as we said, has a din of Olei Mitzrayim. That's Shtei Chalot. 2 Chalot. Achad La'or, one you have to burn in the fire, ve'achad La'kohen. We're going to learn this in the din and we'll understand it soon. Shel Ur Yesh LaShi'ur. The one that you burn in the fire is the one that you take out Kishi'ur, 1/24th or 1/48th, as we've been learning until now. V'shel Kohen, Ein LaShi'ur. And the one that you give to the Kohen, Ein LaShi'ur, has no minimum, you just give him a kol shu. Okay? We'll go back to what this means. Mina na'ar v'ad amana v'lifnim, shtei chalot. So let's go back to our picture. The area 3, from Aram Na'arayim up, this everything northward, all of that was chutz la'aretz. So therefore, that as Min Aram, where are we? Min Na'ar v'ad amana v'lifnim, shtei chalot. Echad la'or v'echad la'kohen. In that case, one goes to, again, one to the fire, one to the kohen. This time, shel ur ein LaShi'ur, v'shel kohen yesh LaShi'ur. Let's see why. What's the difference between the two? Okay, in chutz la'aretz we said, mafrishin shtei chalot. The first one is nisrafet. You have to burn it. Why? Lefishi tmeya betumat Eretz Amim. All of Eretz Amim is tamei. Okay, kevan shelo kivshua olei bavel. It's because olei bavel didn't conquer it. That's why it's chutz la'aretz. Vashniya, and remember we said it's olei mitzrayim kivsha l'shata velo kitcha la'ashid lavo. So therefore you have to burn it because it's tumat Eretz Amim. It's tamei. Shniya nechel. The second one is eaten. Lefish ein tumat chala rishona meforsemet. Because so the problem was, the Bartenura said, if you burned it, you took off challah and you burned it, you would think, therefore, all right, people don't know that challah is muforsam, and they would think, they don't know it's not Eretz Yisrael. Hare ein Eretz Amim Gemura. It's like this middle ground. If they didn't take off a second challah, Yomu, people would say, hey, I'm in Eretz Yisrael. I'm in a place Kivshu Ole Mitzayim. Trumat Tehora Nisrefet. You can burn Trumat Tehora. Aval, therefore, you take one and you give it to burn it, and then you take another one and give it to the Kohen. So therefore you have to give another symbolic challah, okay? Therefore, nita noten alibo haro'eh la'avintam. And they'll say, wait, why are you taking off 2 chalot? Why are you burning one and giving another one? And therefore, or sho'el chachamim, and they'll ask the rabbi, and they'll say, no, we live in this place that's sort of Eretz Yisrael and sort of not. And therefore, shel ur yesh lashi'ur, the one that you take off to burn is because zot ha'aretz hayta kedusha kvar. It has kedusha. Therefore, the challah is like shel Torah. Therefore, you have to take off the 24th. But the kohen ein lashi'ur lefi shimi divrei sofrim. So let's go back to our chart, the chart that we have, going up or down, and let's go back to our chart. Okay, in the place that's Olei Mitzrayim, from Kaziv to the Nahar, you take off 2 chalot. Shel ur yesh lashi'ur. Why? Because it has a din of Eretz Yisrael, so you give the 24th, and you have to burn it. But the Kohen, the one you give to the Kohen, is symbolic in order to show that you're not really in Eretz Yisrael, and therefore it's only D'Rabbanan, and therefore you can only take off kol shu, ein shir. There's no minimum amount. Let's go back to the Mishnah, what we said. Okay, and what about the third area of Mina Nahar v'ad Amana Lifnim, way up, that's Chutz La'aretz, Shtei Chalot. And there we said one is to the Ur, one gets burned, and one goes to the Kohen. The Ur ein la shiur, and the Kohen yesh la shiur. So in this case, the one you burn has no shiur. Why? So the Bartanura says the Ur ein la shiur because it's only midivrei sofrim. You're only taking off the Rabbanan. But you have to give to the Kohen, and they're both the Rabbanan. You have to give the second one to the Kohen. Let's look at the Bartanura. Okay, in the second one, okay, you want burn one because it's tameh. One is the din d'Rabbanan kedei shelo tishtakach torat challah. Now you're in total chutz la'aretz, and since you're in total chutz la'aretz, therefore you're giving it to the Kohen only as a remembrance. So therefore, the one that's you burning, since they're both the Rabbanan, it's better, he says, laharbot ba'otash notim laKohen. Give the big one to the Kohen because they're both only the Rabbanan, and burn the other one. Okay, therefore you burn the other one. The Mishnah continues. I know it's a long Mishnah. I'm trying to do it as quickly as I can without being too confusing. The Mishnah continues. Utvul yom ochla. This, the Bartanur says, a tvul yom, there's a halacha that somebody becomes tamei, tumat zav, for example, a tamei rishon. So you can go to the mikvah, the Kohen goes to the mikvah, and if he's in the time of the Beit HaMikdash, he has to wait until the night, and then he can eat truma. After he goes to the mikvah during the day, he's still considered a tvul yom. He's still tamei and he can't eat truma. So the Mishnah says, a tvul yom can eat. What can he eat? The Bartanura says, what can a Tvul Yom eat? He's allowed to eat Challah Ta'ur Shel Chutz La'aretz. A Tvul Yom can eat the Challah that's burned in Chutz La'aretz. So therefore, no matter what, you're going to end up giving everything to the Kohen, even the one that's burned. We don't throw it away. Or the din was not to throw it away as long as the person was a Kohen. Whatever you took off, you gave to the Kohen because the Tvul Yom could eat it. Rabbi Yossi Amir, Rabbi Yossi says, it's all Tamei anyway. It's all D'Rabbanan. The challah, the Kohen can eat it, even if he didn't go to the mikvah at all. But, nonetheless, asurim lezavim v'lezavot v'lanida leyoldot. Okay, it cannot be served to someone who's a zav or a zavah, a Kohen who's a zav or a zavah, okay, whose tameh is more chamor. Even Rabbi Yossi would admit they can't eat this tuma in chutz la'aretz, or a nida, a woman is a nida, or a yoledet. If she gave birth, then she's a tameh of a yoledet. Okay, since it's all d'Rabbanan. But, this truma that you took off in chutz la'aretz can be eaten with a zar, with a non-Kohen at the same table. Okay, v'nitenet l'kol Kohen, and you can give it to any Kohen, even a Kohen who is an am ha'aretz, as the Rambam said, which you certainly couldn't do. We're not careful about tum and tara because you're all tamei anyway. Okay, the Bartanura disagrees with this position. He explains it in another way. He says it means you can give it to a Kohen who eats his chulin b'tara or a chulin that's eating it chulin b'tuma, whatever. Why? But you still talk because it's all talking about chulin of truma of Eretz Yisrael, and that you could give to any Kohen you want. Long Mishnah, complicated Mishnah. I hope I explained it as well as I can. I'll put you back on the chart here to understand that there's three types of Eretz of land. There's chutz la'aretz. There's chziku ole mitzrayim that became kadosh at once and didn't retain its kedusha, so it's half-half. And then chziku ole bavel that retained its kedusha altogether. And that's why the difference between one challah, two chalot half-half, and then two chalot total that all go to the Kohen because it's all d'Rabbanan anyway. We'll stop here. I hope you came this far with me. We'll dedicate the learning to the memory of my father, Rav Simcha ben Yitzchak Kalman. And here's an email address if you've liked emailing me about this crazy, confusing Mishnah.